understanding any subject, we must understand like what are the pillars of that subject, that particular discipline. And if you are able to understand the basic pillars of that particular discipline, then definitely our understanding will be very thorough, very deep, and we'll be able to do further research work or any other assignment related to that particular discipline. So today we shall be discussing about the foundations of behavioral finance. Before discussing the foundations of behavioral finance, let us have just a brief, quick understanding of what are the context that leads to the studying of behavioral finance, and why behavioral finance is so much important all of a sudden in the last 2 decades especially. Prior to that it was not so important, and especially in the context of India it is becoming very popular, and the huge number of participants in this summer school, that is around 170 registered participants, itself is a testimony of the fact that this particular discipline is getting so much of popularity. So now what actually has changed in the environment which leads to the study, so much of the study and research in the area of behavioral finance? Yesterday one of you have asked question like, is the research on behavioral finance is all about the stock market, or the behavioral economics is all about the stock market? My friend, stock market or the behavioral finance is not all about the stock market, but particularly we as an academician or as a researcher, the difficulty that we are facing is that the availability of data. The theories that we are trying to prove in the context of a stock market, the same theory can be applied. Most of the theories can be applied in the context of real estate also. It can be applied in case of agricultural land also, or some other properties also, in case of gold also. But the thing is that if you just see any journal on finance or economics or accounting, you will find most of the researches are based on the information which is given in the annual report, and most of the researches are based on the data extracted from the stock market, any of the stock market anywhere in the world. Reason being, these are the two most readily available data with us, the academicians, and that's why we have to bank upon our research primarily in the domain of, say, based on the data which can be extracted from annual reports, or which can be extracted from stock exchange or any financial market. Stock exchange, it gives us the price continuity, and that's why, like in the previous speaker was talking about the getting a best price or the most efficient price, and because of this efficiency of the stock market, not in terms of efficient market hypothesis, but its efficiency in extracting the price and giving the price discovery and price continuity of the assets that actually that are being traded in the stock, in the exchanges, it is the data are readily available, and that's why we academicians and the researchers in the area of finance have to be dependent, especially in the on these two data. And this was actually one of the limitation of the traditional finance and economics models, that we have to be dependent on this data. And when it comes to the behavioral finance, and we need some data related to the psychology of the participants, market participants, whether it is a buyer or seller or broker or any other players in the market, we need to understand their psychology. And unfortunately the data related to psychology is not readily available, and that's why another participant has asked question like how to measure the risk perception and how to measure overreaction or the gambler's fallacy. And my dear friend, for that purpose we have to learn something about skill development. The skill has to be prepared considering the various aspects of psychology, the cognitive aspects, psychomotor aspects, emotional domain. All these things has to be taken into consideration. A scale has to be prepared, a scale has to be validated, it has to be tested for its reliability and validity, and then this scale can be used to measure the variables that we are intending to measure. In the context of India, there are certain things which has changed drastically in